Hello professionals around the world, welcome to my channel. In this video, I will share 3 tips with you as to how you can present with confidence in English even if you're not a native speaker. Once you start to use these strategies, you will feel so much more at ease about your presentations. This is Adrienne here at Communications Plus, helping you communicate with clarity and confidence as you're shaping the world. If you're new here, be sure to hit the subscribe button so as to not miss out on any great practical tips. They are coming your way every Thursday. Now let's see how this video is structured. First, I will share with you a few thoughts about accents because I know that tends to be a sore spot for many non-native speakers. Then come the 3 practical tips that should help you greatly present with ease when it's your time to present next time. And last, towards the end of the video, I will give you a bonus tip as to how you can reduce your accent quite easily in case you have a very heavy one that is difficult to understand, or in case you just have an accent that really bothers you. Let's get started. Here's my thought about accents. I'm recording this video in July 2020. Right now, there are 7.5 billion of us living on this planet, and about 20% of those are English speakers of some sort. And out of those 20%, the ratio of native English speakers to non-native English speakers is about 1 to 2. It can be a little more or a little less depending on what source you consult. But generally speaking, most sources say that it's a 1 to 2 ratio. In other words, there are twice as many non-native English speakers as English speakers. Native English speakers, I mean. And English is the official language of more than 50 countries on the planet. So, if you happen to be a non-native English speaker, but you would like to have more of a native English speaker accent, my question is, how would you even choose? How would you even choose which region, which type of accent to choose? There is such a variety. So my golden advice to you is don't worry about your accent. Really, it's not an issue unless it's such a heavy accent that people have a hard time understanding you. And if that's the case, definitely stick around because after the presentation tips, I will share a bonus tip with you as to how you can reduce your accent quite significantly. I know this tip helped me. I am a non-native speaker of English as well, and it's something that one can do even in adulthood. So stay tuned. Now let's move on to those presentation tips. So what can we do to calm the nerves, to make sure that we come across 100% proficient and that our audience understands us and remembers what we say? The number one absolute best thing that you can do while you are preparing is to practice out loud. What should you practice out loud and how should you practice out loud are questions I'm going to discuss under this point. So what you need to practice is your text. However, don't bother memorizing your presentation word by word. That would be cumbersome, it would take a long time, and I think in the long term it might just make you feel less comfortable if you forget that particular exact line that you had composed ahead of time. What I suggest is that you have talking points and memorize the content for each of your talking points. Memorize something that are about 3 or 4 sentences for each point that you can remember pretty well and practice these out loud. You don't need to practice in front of the mirror. I find that quite an artificial situation because normally when you stand in front of the audience, you don't see yourself, right? You see the audience members. So why would you practice at home looking at yourself? It really doesn't feel as though you were practicing for an audience. But if you get to a point that you're quite comfortable with your presentation already and you would like some mock audience, you would be surprised by how much just practicing in front of a friend or a family member or a kindly neighbor will actually help. And as you practice out loud, be sure to speak slowly and articulate very clearly. You can even speak a lot slower than your normal pace of speech. Here's a question for you. What do you think? When we are in front of an audience and we are a bit nervous, do we tend to speed up our speech or do we tend to slow it down? Well, I don't know what you said there on the other side of the camera, but we tend to speed up, that's for sure. We start to talk fast because we are nervous and we want to get it over with. And that is exactly the impression that our audience also gets, that we just want to get this presentation over with. And that's not a good feeling, because they would like to see us enjoy it as much as we would like to enjoy it ourselves, right? So if you conscientiously slow down your speech and articulate, your audience will understand you better and you will enjoy your presentation more as well. A recent article in the journal titled Frontiers of Neuroscience states, and I quote, that audiences need to draw upon additional cognitive resources to understand accented speech, end quote. In other words, people just need to pay attention perhaps a little more closely. They need to focus more and without distraction when they listen to accented speech to understand it well. That's another reason why it's a good idea to slow down our speech when we speak to an audience so as to make it easier for them to focus on what we are saying. While you're practicing out loud, I suggest that you pause often. Pause after each sentence, pause after each thought. Definitely pause if you say a joke, and maybe pause after you introduce a technical term that is specific to your expertise. I've made a video dedicated to when to pause while you're giving a talk, and I'm going to link that for you right here in the corner so you can watch that, and that will give you more detail about the importance of pauses. My second tip is that you learn the jargon of your expertise very, very well. Whatever your expertise may be. Maybe you're in finance or marketing, or maybe you're in medicine, or you're a teacher, or you're engaged in fine arts. It doesn't really matter about the area of expertise. The important thing is that you learn a wide variety of jargon that pertains to that particular expertise. You will find that knowing that vocabulary will help you so much during your presentations, and especially if you have a Q&A session. Even if your English is not stellar and you're still working on expanding your vocabulary, if you know the jargon of your trade, you will come across more confident and more competent. And my last tip is that you avoid mirror translations. What do I mean by mirror translations? Mirror translation is when a non-native speaker of English, in his or her English, thinks of an expression and translates it verbatim, word by word, into English. Some funny, incorrect expressions can be found that way. For example, my native language is Hungarian, and many times when Hungarians want to say today's meeting, they say the today meeting. Because in fact, when we say today's meeting in Hungarian, these are the words in order. The today meeting. But there is no such expression in English, right? The today meeting just sounds off, and it sort of shakes one's professionalism when expressions like that are used frequently in one's speech. Some other expressions I have come upon recently are the word flies and the example drags. This was an Italian speaker who said this, and I know exactly what he means. Actions speak louder than words. That again is a mirror translation that just didn't quite come across in English. So how can you avoid mirror translations? Well, that's a tricky thing because you might not even know that you're mirror translating. So if you have to give a really important presentation, you're presenting to, let's say, investors, superiors, management, whatever, you decide that, then what I suggest is that you run your presentation by a native or a near native speaker so that they can tell you if things are on track as far as these expressions go. And here comes the bonus tip. We can greatly reduce our accents by working on not actually the pronunciation of the word so much, but the intonation. That is where we put the stresses, where we put the emphasis within the word. According to most language acquisition theories, after the age of 12, most people are not really able to learn to pronounce sounds that are drastically different from the sounds of one's native language. However, we can work on the intonation at any age. What do I mean by intonation? My native tongue, for example, is Hungarian. In Hungarian, the intonation is very simple because the emphasis in each word is at the beginning. Now listen to me say this same sentence with Hungarian intonation. In Hungarian, the intonation is very simple because the emphasis in each word is at the beginning. That sounds very foreign, doesn't it? And I did not change the pronunciation, I changed the intonation only. That is, I changed where I put the emphasis in the words. So anyway, that is my little bonus tip for the day. Try it out and see how much difference it makes. I think you might be surprised by how it really can improve your speech if you put the emphasis at the right places in your speech at every single word. Thank you so much for watching my video. Give it a thumbs up if you like this content and be sure to subscribe for more practical tips in the future. Take care now.